Last segment, it is our second to last winning time recap. As always, turn off the pod if you don't like spoilers. This is why it's at the end. You can catch us on the flippity flip if you haven't watched it, so it's all good. First and foremost, the only bad thing about winning time, besides the slander, this episode now gets us into the playoffs. There are now 3 main plot lines. 1, Jerry Buss, his mom dies in the middle of the playoff series. Tough. 2nd, like really, really sad, shows their relationship, how that changes his relationship with his daughter, Jeannie Buss, the fact that she's conflicted because she wants to take care of her grandmother, how her grandmother actually wants Jeannie to be independent because she's always relied on and cared for men, which is very interesting to me because Jeannie's never married. She's been with Phil Jackson on and off for a really long time, but she never really paired up and lived for a man. Her entire life has been sort of kind of being like Jerry Buss, being single, being a bachelorette who's largely a businesswoman, which I find that to be fascinating. Also, the return of Jack McKinney and him trying to get back as being the head coach of the Lakers after, stunningly almost losing his brain on the cement, and him having memory issues while still being clearly the smarter coach, but just not the coach with all of his faculties, if that makes sense. And then another involving Spencer Haywood, who is probably the most interesting player in NBA history. The last time we talked about Coach McKinney, his run-and-gun offense revolutionized the NBA. And now I can't express to you how important he is to Showtime. Showtime doesn't exist without Jack McKinney. And he's finally cleared to have his role again, which then now causes serious problems for Paul Westhead, his assistant, who's the interim head coach, and Westhead's assistant, Pat Riley, who McKinney wants no part of being on the bench. Pat Riley shouldn't be there according to McKinney. He's got to fucking go. And if he wouldn't have said that, maybe they wouldn't have had these problems. McKinney thinks Paul Westhead stabbed him in the back and is trying to take his job and wants him gone. The problem is that his brain's not right. He hasn't recovered fully from the bike accident just a couple of months ago, and he's getting lost. He's forgetting people's names. There's a scene where Jerry Buss shows up at his doorstep. He doesn't even know it's Jerry Buss. And Buss is loyal. He wants to give him his job back. But when McKinney shows up with champagne at his doorstep, he's like, special delivery for Jack McKinney. And Jack's like, hold on one second. Wife, there's a delivery at the door. Can you come? Hold on one second, sir. Yeah, my wife can help you with that. He's like, yo, let me just back up. Pivot, sir, red alert, pivot time, pivot. And it's Westhead and Riley's title now to either win or lose. B story then revolves around Jerry Buss's mom, brilliantly playing by Sally Field, dying from cancer. So sad to watch. By all accounts, Jerry Buss and his mom incredibly close. The story of Jerry Buss and his mom being in abject poverty, hustling their way to the top. But what is lost is, just like I said, how much Jeannie Buss learned from her grandmother, especially when it comes to being a woman in a male-dominated business. And let's talk about Spencer fucking Haywood. You may not have heard of him, but he was voted into the Hall of Fame in 2015. He was a problem. 6'8", hard rock, sets tough screens from Mississippi, who was all grit on the boards and in the paint. Problem was, he did crack. Pretty much. We're talking about a guy who sued the NBA in 1970 and won, allowing underclassmen for the first time to enter the draft. Yes, you would have no LeBron James without Spencer Haywood. No Kevin Garnett without Spencer Haywood. He was also married to Iman, the iconic fashion model. How he pulled her, unknown. Unknown to me. He turned down Nike for a shoe deal that would have been worth over $1 billion. Turned them down. He even performed an adult circumcision on himself with a razor and a rock. These are all true. These are all true things. What? Let me just say it again. Spencer Haywood doing crack, married to supermodel. Apparently she signed on for him to take a razor and a rock to his own fucking penis and shave off. I swear to God. That's not even relevant to the story. By 1979, he was a valuable player off the bench for the Lakers. But he was doing coke, he was doing crack, and he had been addicted to crack cocaine for years. And this leads to the greatest drama in the series to date, because even more than the head coach nearly dying, then coming back, then being so out of his mind that Jerry Buss has to give the team to his assistants, one of which has no coaching experience. All he has is being next to Chick Hearn as an announcer. The Lakers now are in the finals with the Sixers. And guess what? Spencer Haywood gets back to the pipe. So bad, he shows up to practice the next day looking like Dave Chappelle in the fucking skit. Paul Westhead literally has to kick him off the team during the NBA Finals. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, his really good friend, fellow activist, is the deciding vote. Has to deliver the news to Spencer Haywood. The same week that the Lakers fire their head coach because he's cuckoo in the brain right now. That's not even the best part. The best part, which actually happens to be true, we know that as well because Spencer writes about it also in his autobiography, is when he gets kicked off the team, what does he do? Does he take it on the chin, decide to go to rehab, look inward, decide, yes, it is true, me, Spencer Haywood, I have a problem? No. He decides to take out a hit and kill the head coach of the Lakers. He hires someone to come to L.A. to try to cut the brakes on Paul Westhead. Let me recap this all for you. Spencer Haywood gets kicked off the Lakers for smoking crack during the NBA Finals, then was so mad he takes out a murder hit on his former head coach. He hires a mafia hitman to murder his head coach, and there's already been a mafia hit in the fucking season. This is unreal. I had to buy a copy literally just so I could find a section where he talks about it. This is what he wrote. I left the forum and I drove off in my rolls that night thinking one thing. Not, damn, I fucked up. It was, Westhead's gotta die. I drove through the streets plotting the man's murder. In the heat of anger and in the days of coke, I phoned an old friend of mine in Detroit, guy named Gregory, certified gangster. I said, come out here, buddy. I got someone I want you to take care of. He said, no problem, Wood. Love to do that for you. The next day, Greg and his partner flew out to L.A. ready to go to work. We sat down and we figured it out. Westhead lives in Palos Verdes, and we got his street address. We would sabotage his car and mess with his brake lining. Are you kidding me? And we have people like Jerry West letting a little entertainment get in the way of the truth and the best series on television right now. Winning Time, folks, wraps up next Sunday. And goddamn, how could it get any better? I am looking forward to it. That's all the time, folks. Wow. Let's just really fast before the close. Just let that sink in. What? First of all, you got your point guards having orgies, later contracting HIV. Your head coach isn't even your head coach. He's had a stroke. You're firing him. You fire them later in the finals. You fire him midway through. You got a guy on crack cocaine, getting kicked off the team. He's your main role player big man, helping Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then he decides he's going to kill the head coach, who's not even the real head coach. He's the interim. Why don't we know about this already? Why hasn't there already been a film? Anyway, that's all the time that we have for the Heat Check. We'll be back in a couple of days with a new episode. Follow us as we get deeper and deeper into the playoffs. Do not forget to download, subscribe, tell your friends, every damn one of us. Follow us on social at This Heat Check and Trysta Krick on TikTok and on Twitter.